Morning guys and girls, just a quick video here to talk about arrow spine versus overall arrow weight. It's a topic that comes up more frequently now with heavy bow archery, whether it's archers that I shoot with that ask questions or talk to me about it, whether it's social media in the questions that are generated by content that I've posted that mentions overall arrow weight and the variance between those arrows, or spine, or any of those things. So just to kind of set the scene, the spine of an arrow is the stiffness of how much it bends. Now it bends in the plane that it goes around the bow, and you may have seen those kind of slow motion videos of the archer's paradox where an arrow will bend round a bow and then fly like this, kind of fishtails. So that obviously only happens with not only, but mainly it's something that we talk about with bows that shoot off the side of the bow rather than a center shot bow which shoots straight out the middle. A bow with a shelf or something like a compound, whereas with long bows or American flat bows, etc., where you're shooting off the side of the bow, that arrow needs to bend round the bow and then straighten up and fly correctly. If the arrow is too stiffly spined, if it's too stiff and doesn't bend, it'll shoot off to the left if you're shooting it off the left hand side of the bow. If it's too weakly spined, if it bends too much, it'll fly really erratically and it will really struggle to clean up its flight and you won't get an accurate shot. Now, if you've got a quiver full of 12 arrows and they're not spined, you could have some that are wildly too stiff or wildly too underspined, and therefore you don't get accuracy when you're shooting, which is something that is more commonly talked about in lower poundage archery disciplines, field shooting or what have you. Whereas I suppose over the last few years, it's become more of a topic in heavy bow archery because as we've all got better, and technology has been either not improved, rediscovered, I don't know, are we recreating issues that people had hundreds of years ago? Probably so. We have slightly different technology now to look at that and to crack that code, I suppose, to work out how people shot consistently back in the day, 100 Years War, etc. Whereas now arrows that I make especially, I focus on the arrow spine. I want consistency with the spine because as I've improved, I can comfortably shoot a 140-pound American flat bow from Joe Gibbs all day to shoot. 5 years ago, maybe longer, I wasn't really worried about arrow spine. I would buy pre-tapered shafts from archery suppliers that were half-inch, tapered down to 3/8 at the knock. I'd buy 12, put heads on them, put fletchings on them, put knock inserts in, etc., or buy them pre-done. And nobody mentioned spine, they weren't spined, I never spined them, and sure enough I would have wildly inconsistent arrows. You know, I was decent enough, but as I got better and more comfortable with the bow weights, that became more of a, right, okay, that's something I need to consider now. So I've now got a really smart spining jig, which a friend of mine's made for me. Obviously combined with a set of accurate scales, vernier calipers, you can get a really good feel for what each arrow measures up. And for me now, the most important thing is spine, is the arrow stiffness, not the overall weight, not the overall dimensions, the actual spine itself. Obviously I want the arrow to be heavy enough that it's not going to dry fire from my bow, and the dimensions I need to be about right so that the heads look right and they fit on the end and the end isn't too thin that it's just going to split the knock end when I shoot it. So, but the most important thing for me now is arrow spine. So I've just finished making a set of 9 arrows for a chap, Hayden Young. He came onto our heavy bow masterclass last summer. He's had a few sets of arrows off me now, and he's just just had completed a nice shiny new American flat bow from Gibbs Archery, from Joe, which is about £100, £94 at 30 if I remember correctly. And I've made him a set of 9 arrows. 6 have got blunts on the end, and 3 have got these lovely tri-point 3-headed ends on them for various different, disciplines or whatever, different types of shot that you might take. These are great for shooting at a net close range, or various other things if you don't want to get them stuck in a tree and you're shooting over a tree or whatever. Now, I thought this was a great opportunity to just mention how these are all spined to within 115, 120 pounds. There's a £5 difference between the 9 arrows, and I have bought these shafts from Dal's Archery, Darren Ball, absolutely fantastic shafts. It's the only shafts I now use, absolutely brilliant. I buy 1/2 inch shafts from him, full length, not tapered, and I put nock inserts in them myself and then taper them all myself. So the way that I go about making an arrow shaft is I will taper the last 8 inches or so, 6 inches or so, down to about 10 mil at the nock end from 1/2 inch. That's the first bit that I'll taper. The rest of it I won't worry about. Then I'll spine it on this spining jig and I'll see what it comes out at. Now I will get a pretty good indicator straight away whether that's going to be really stiff or whether it's not so stiff, and the result of that initial first weigh on this spining jig will tell me how much more material I need to take off further down the shaft. So I might end up with some of these shafts that are, 10 mil-ish at the nock end, and they are 10 mil-ish here, 10 mil-ish here, 11 mil-ish here, up to 12 mil. I might get others that are 12 mil, virtually, to halfway, and then they start tapering down to 11, 10 in a short taper. So the dimensions can be quite different, but the overall spine is the same. And for me, having shot now with heavy bows for quite a while, spine is key. I spoke about this with Joe Gibbs recently. We speak a lot about a lot of things to do with archery, especially heavy bows, and we've both agreed that the overall weight or dimensions of an arrow, within reason, makes very little difference on the shot compared to the spine. The spine is the crucial bit now. So I will shoot arrows that in my quiver, I'll have a set of 12 arrows that are, 5-6 grams apart from heaviest to lightest. The dimensions will be slightly different, but the spine is consistent. And you can make up for that couple of grams difference with an arrow because of slight wind in the air, the cleanness of your release when you let that arrow go, how clean that release is. And that really doesn't make a massive difference, that 5 pounds difference between the heaviest and the lightest arrow. 5 pounds? 5 grams difference between the heaviest and lightest arrow in your quiver. Whereas the spine, if you had wildly different spine, which you would get if you just bought a set of tapered shafts, some of them, even if you buy them spined, that isn't accurate. So spining them yourself after doing the work of putting the inserts in, etc., gives you a nice consistent shot, which gives you consistent grouping, which as you get better and better with heavy bows, as with any archery, lighter archery as well, people will know that spine is really important. So just to demonstrate that, I thought I'd pick 4 random arrows out of this bunch of 9 that I've made. Get my verniers out. So they are 12.4 mil down here at the head end. This one halfway up is 10.7, and then just under the binding here is 10.2. Right, I'm going to get another one which is spine the same. This one 12.1 here, halfway down 10.4, and now here 9.5 mil just under here. Down to the nock it is 8.85, so it's just under 9 mil. A really nice small nock with the arrow side by side with its counterpart. Not too dissimilar, but I can see sat here that they are, this one is thicker, this one is thinner. However, when I spine them, so pop it on the spining jig, making sure that it is on the nock here and that the nock is sort of parallel with the table. It's a clumsy angle to do this at, but you get the point. So I'll zero that. Hang it on there. So that is so it's 0.218 inches, which when I convert that deflection, 0.218 is, well, 0.217 is 120 pound spine. So that's spined at nearest damn it 120 pounds, maybe 119.5 pounds. If I get this other arrow, which is significantly thicker, pop it on the spining jig, zero that again, hang the weight off it, 0.222, which is 0.226 is 115 pounds, 0.217 is 120, so it's smack bang in the middle there. £117. So that's spined at 120, 119.5. That one is spined at 117, so a couple of pounds difference in spine. However, the dimensions are significantly different. Let's weigh it. So this one is 59 grams. This one is 62 grams. So there are 3 grams difference between those two arrows. There might be a gram difference in the head because they're hand turned. The rest of it is obviously arrow dimensions. Thicker, thinner, but same spine. So it's worth considering when you are looking at making your own arrows or wondering why you're shooting heavier bows but your grouping isn't as consistent or your arrows aren't flying as, I don't know, consistently as each other. You may have a quiver full of 12 arrows that you've bought from an archery supplier somewhere, half inch to 3/8 tapered shafts. They're all tapered exactly the same. However, the spine could be wildly out. Now, what I'm going to do soon is make a set of arrows that are completely the same in terms of the dimensions. So they taper exactly the same. And I'm going to measure how wildly different the spines come out at. Because if I get these shafts, I know when I get them and I taper that sort of 6 to 8 inches on the end, when I initially spine them, some of them can spine over £200 spine, some of them can be spining already at £150. There's 50, 60, 70 pounds difference in the spine, and I've not even taken any material off them yet. And that is all down to how close the grain is in the wood, so how tightly the growth rings are packed together. A tighter, more grains per inch gives you a stiffer shaft, whereas a more open grain shaft, something like this, where the grain is more open, will give you a more flexible shaft. So again, this is going to be a significantly thicker arrow. So if we look here, yeah, that's 10.7 mil just under the leading edge binding here. 10.7, which when compared to this one, 10.7 versus 10.1 versus the slim one, which is 9.75. So there's a huge difference, and it really is worth bearing in mind. So if you're after consistency with your shooting with a heavy arrow, with a heavy bow, bear in mind that spine is your friend. Getting spine shaft is really crucial, really important, and that the variance in 5 or 6 grams across the set of arrows or the slight difference in dimensions will make very little difference. The crucial bit is the spine themselves of those arrows. So there you go. So a bit of information there for you, just food for thought on this Eastery Thursday morning. Yeah, so I've actually done a video yesterday shooting in the garden, looking at how arrows come out and how clean they're loosed, and the difference with a heavy spine arrow for me and a lighter spine arrow, and how clean they come out the bow and how consistently they fly. So I'll get that uploaded soon. But for right now, just something to think about in terms of spine over weight or measurements of those arrows. Right, if you've got any questions, guys, please feel free to ask me on the comments below, and I'll get back to you ASAP. And if you've got any more questions about arrows or arrow making, you can always have a look at my Instagram as well, Arrows of Athelay, which is where I kind of post all my arrow making stuff. And then my main Robin of the Hood page is where I post all my shooting and everything we get up to bow wise, other than the arrow making itself. Right, have a great day, guys and girls, and I'll catch you all soon.